The green fiend scorpion was the first spirit to appear. Immediately after, 8 more extraterrestrial spirits manifested in rapid succession, almost without pause. If Wang Lin hadn't donned the soul armor and gone all out, it would have been nearly impossible for him to endure and pass through the 11th layer. Especially that final spirit. It was a colossal elephant, vast beyond measure, as though an entire cultivation star had taken form. Its strength was boundless and overwhelming. Wang Lin sensed that these 9 extraterrestrial spirits were but phantoms, their true power far weaker than their actual bodies. Yet even so, they were terrifyingly strong. Nearly every one of them could reach the level of a peak celestial venerable, and the final 4 were formidable enough to battle an ordinary transcendent heavenly venerable head-on. He had no time to waste. The soul armor could only be worn for a limited duration, and the moment he completed his battle in the 11th layer, he removed it, seeking to maximize its use. The instant he stepped out of the 11th layer, as golden light burst from the hall, a voice of immense authority suddenly resounded within his mind. No one else could hear it, only Wang Lin himself. I am Lian Yunju. I leave my comprehension here within the heavenly venerable ascension grounds, together with the 8 extreme Daos formed from the condensation of all my divine arts throughout my lifetime. Should a fated one arrive, they may obtain them here. You have passed my trial. I grant you the extreme fire path. This art belongs neither to divine arts, nor to origins, nor to spells, nor is it of my own creation. It is an inheritance from the primordial divine realm. As the voice echoed in his mind, a vision arose before him, something strangely familiar. A hand appeared. It bore no trace of fire, yet as it pressed down, a wisp of azure smoke coiled around one finger. After circling 9 times, it expanded, transforming into 9 rings of azure smoke, each radiating an aura of terrifying might. Sitting cross-legged within the golden light, Wang Lin closed his eyes. He followed the vision in his mind and the resonance of the voice. He had glimpsed this art before, faintly understood it, even borrowed its illusory clone's power to wield it in the past. But now, without relying on any clone, in his meditative state, he instinctively raised his right hand. Before all eyes, a wisp of azure smoke appeared, curling around one of his fingers. The sight left every cultivator below utterly dumbfounded. He really passed the 11th layer. Among transcendent heavenly venerables, few have ever gone beyond it. Yet he started from the 5th layer, and, in such a short time, has directly reached the 11th. I can no longer fathom his limits. Having crossed the 11th layer, Wang Lin was now utterly beyond the realm of ordinary heavenly venerable cultivators. From below, they could no longer even see the azure smoke swirling around his finger within the golden radiance. But Leap heavenly venerable Shuyu and his 2 companions saw it clearly. Their expressions were complicated. They stared at Wang Lin, momentarily stunned. To pass the 11th layer on his very first attempt, and that azure smoke on his finger, I once saw it with Venerable Kaiwei. That is none other than the extreme fire path of the immortal progenitor's 8 extreme Daos. I had thought he was like me. But no, he truly has the strength to pass the 11th layer. Among transcendent heavenly venerables, each additional layer marks an immense gulf. The 3 of them fell silent, each sighing inwardly. But far off, transcendent heavenly venerable Xian's expression shifted wildly. His eyes filled with venom as he glared at Wang Lin within the golden light. The 11th layer, damn it. I struggled for ages before I could pass it, and he does so in a single attempt. Worse still, he received the immortal progenitor's divine art. While I gained nothing when I passed. No, the 11th layer must be his limit. He will never pass the 12th. Across countless years, even Venerable Kaiwei stopped at the 12th when he first became a transcendent heavenly venerable. Only the Nether Dao venerable has ever gone beyond. This man cannot possibly succeed. For the first time, jealousy flared in Xian's heart as he stared at Wang Lin, seated cross-legged within the golden light. At length, Wang Lin opened his eyes. He gazed at the azure smoke coiling around his finger, then with a flash of icy light in his eyes, dispersed it. Rising to his feet, he didn't spare a glance at those below. Instead, under the pounding hearts of every cultivator, including Xian, He lifted his head to gaze toward the towering 12th hall above. Leap Heavenly Venerable Shuyu once said that from the 11th layer onward, every floor holds profound fortune, and it's true. This extreme fire path is not the immortal progenitor's own creation, but an inheritance from the primordial divine realm. What is this primordial divine realm truly? Tian and I seems to have emerged from it. The cultivation of grand heavenly venerables also comes from there. Even the divine arts of the immortal progenitor are inheritances of the primordial divine realm. What kind of existence is that place, in truth? Wang Lin's eyes gleamed brightly as he fell into deep thought. In the heavenly venerable nirvana grounds, what was obtained was not just fame, but also the divine opportunity left by the immortal progenitor. Lian Yunju. The immortal progenitor was indeed named thus. Wang Lin took a deep breath, his body swaying as he heard the waves of exclamations from below, and he immediately headed for the 12th layer. He faintly heard the excitement and anticipation in the exclamations below, but at that moment, he cared not for these. What mattered to him was the original purpose for coming to the heavenly venerable nirvana grounds. He wanted to make a stunning impact. He felt that merely breaking through the first layer was not enough to achieve such an impact. He believed that the venerable Kaiwei, who stood at the 12th layer, had once stopped there. Even if he stood alongside him now, it still wouldn't be considered an astonishing feat. He believed that surpassing the most powerful among the Leap Heavenly Venerables, the Nether Dao Venerable, might just barely qualify as such a feat. Moreover, above the 11th layer of the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana, there indeed existed divine opportunities. Wang Lin was particularly interested in the 8 extremities Dao, which the immortal progenitor had passed down to the primordial divine realm. He's crazy. He actually dared to challenge the 12th layer. The 12th layer. I don't know how many Leap Heavenly Venerables have managed to pass it, but such a person is definitely extremely rare. He will succeed. This time, I don't think he will fail. Wang Lin's actions left Shuyu and the others stunned, watching his figure disappear into the clouds of the sky. After a long time, their feelings turned to deeper complexity and admiration. As the saying goes, a sparrow cannot know the ambition of a swan. Today, I finally understand his pursuit. We can only admire from afar. Shuyu, do you think he can break through the 12th layer? Yes. Although this is our first meeting, it's clear that he would never do anything without confidence. Since he dares to step into the 12th layer, he must have the confidence to do so. It's unlikely. After all, only the Nether Dao Venerable, when he first became a Leap Heavenly Venerable, could challenge the 12th layer. If he succeeds, wouldn't it be a storm like the one caused by the Nether Dao Venerable back then? Back then, when the Nether Dao Venerable first became a Leap Heavenly Venerable and passed the 12th layer, it attracted the attention of the Grand Heavenly Venerables themselves, and even most of the Leap Heavenly Venerables came. Those Grand Heavenly Venerables, in order to recruit the Nether Dao Venerable, each offered extremely tempting conditions. In the end, he chose the Immortal Emperor. As Shuyu and the others were discussing, a sudden burst of intense light erupted from the ancient teleportation array in the distance. In that light, figures began to fly out one after another. These figures made the heavenly venerable cultivators below immediately lower their expressions, but they were not at all surprised to see these figures, who were usually rarely seen, appear together now. Heavenly Flame Leap Heavenly Venerable. Mortal Dust Leap Heavenly Venerable. Shattered Dream Leap Heavenly Venerable. That's Handan Leap Heavenly Venerable. The Heavenly Venerable cultivators below immediately recognized each of the Leap Heavenly Venerables that had appeared. In a brief moment of silence, about 30 Leap Heavenly Venerables, each coming from various regions of the Immortal Clan continent, sent their divine senses soaring into the sky, appearing within the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana grounds. After appearing, they all looked up, their expressions extremely serious, gazing into the sky. It was extremely rare to see so many Leap Heavenly Venerables and Heavenly Venerables in the Nirvana grounds. In all these years, it had only happened once, when the Nether Dao Venerable first became a Leap Heavenly Venerable. Even the Venerable Kaiwei back then had not caused such a storm. A few breaths later, the ancient teleportation array in the distance erupted with a blinding light again, growing ever more intense. Moments later, a tall figure emerged from it. Once this figure appeared, the entire Heavenly Venerable Nirvana grounds fell silent. Both the Heavenly Venerables and Leap Heavenly Venerables, at this moment, bowed toward the tall figure. Greetings, Great Heavenly Venerable Wu Feng. This towering figure was none other than Wu Feng, one of the 5 Grand Heavenly Venerables. After appearing, his expression remained calm. He took a step forward, standing in the sky, ignoring the bowing of everyone, and instead gazing at Wang Lin, who stood outside the 12th layer hall, seemingly in deep thought. Wang Lin, whether or not you break through the 12th layer, if you follow me, I will make a promise to you. You may request any promise you desire. Wu Feng's voice was not loud, but it reverberated throughout the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana grounds, even penetrating into Wang Lin's mind, who was outside the 12th layer hall. Wang Lin stopped his movements and bowed his fists, looking down. Thank you, Great Heavenly Venerable. However, right now, I must give my full effort to break through the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana. Let us discuss this matter later. Is that acceptable? Of course, Wu Feng didn't mind at all. He looked at Wang Lin, and the more he looked, the more intent he became on recruiting him. This scene was witnessed by all the surrounding cultivators, whose expressions changed, and their hearts were filled with wonder. Such a scene, with so many Leap Heavenly Venerables and peers, almost rivaled the grand event caused by the Nether Dao Venerable back in the day. Wang Lin, my young friend, do you still remember the promise we made back then? At that moment, a voice that made Great Heavenly Venerable Wu Feng frown slowly drifted out from the ancient teleportation array. As the array's light flickered, Dao E Grand Heavenly Venerable stepped out at a measured pace. Wang Lin's expression remained calm. He looked at Dao E Grand Heavenly Venerable, pondered briefly, then clasped his fists and spoke slowly. I remember. If I break through the 9th layer, Dao E Grand Heavenly Venerable would personally come to recruit me. There's no rush for that. Wang Lin, my young friend, go and challenge the 12th layer first. Dao E Grand Heavenly Venerable smiled faintly and glanced at Great Heavenly Venerable Wu Feng nearby. Their eyes locked, as though the air itself froze between them. This scene fell into the eyes of the surrounding cultivators. The Heavenly Venerable cultivators, in particular, wore strange expressions. Other than the incident involving Nether Dao Venerable years ago, this was only the second time they'd seen Grand Heavenly Venerables openly competing over someone. Dao E, I've already set my sights on this one. Don't you fight me for him. A cold gleam flickered in Great Heavenly Venerable Wu Feng's eyes as he spoke slowly. Wu Feng, even for a transcendent Heavenly Venerable cultivator, we cannot forcibly demand. Everything depends on his own choice. Just because you favor him does not mean he'll follow you. Besides, he's about to challenge the 12th layer. If he succeeds, he'll rival Nether Dao Venerable in his prime. Someone like that. Not just you and me. Even that old fellow, Great Heavenly Venerable Jyoti, might be moved to act. And the Immortal Emperor as well. Back then, no one knows what promise he made to Nether Dao Venerable, but he still managed to recruit him. Dao E Grand Heavenly Venerable smiled, shook his head, and sent his thoughts out. As the two exchanged divine sense, Wang Lin, high above, drew in a deep breath and stepped into the 12th layer's grand hall. The instant he entered, Dao E and Wu Feng stopped their silent exchange and raised their heads to watch. All the surrounding cultivators, whether Heavenly Venerables or Transcendent Heavenly Venerables, did the same. Yet, in several places outside the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana grounds, the sight stirred different thoughts. Inside Violet Sun's sect, a middle-aged cultivator gazed bitterly at the mirror before him and let out a deep sigh. Alas, how did this man break through the 11th layer? The 11th layer was already enough, but this 12th layer, he must not pass it. If he does, what leverage will I have to persuade him to join us? He'll be instantly courted by Great Heavenly Venerable Jyoti and the Immortal Emperor. Even Dao E Grand Heavenly Venerable and Great Heavenly Venerable Wu Feng will struggle to match those two in background. It's a pity. If the twin Grand Heavenly Venerables of our Violet Sun sect hadn't met with mishap in their last reincarnation, we might still have been able to compete with Jyoti and the Immortal Emperor. As the middle-aged cultivator sighed bitterly, already close to giving up on recruiting Wang Lin, The stone room's door suddenly flew open with a kick. A little girl in red clothes ran inside. Little solitary Cliff, why are you still staring at that broken mirror? Hurry out and help me and Henin deal with that little wolf. He's been way too unruly today. I'm going to give him a good lesson. Little ancestor. The middle-aged cultivator looked as if he might cry, about to speak. Huh? The person in that broken mirror looks familiar. The little girl furrowed her delicate brows, as if thinking. Little ancestor, of course you know them. That's great heavenly venerable woofing and Dao e grand heavenly venerable. The middle-aged cultivator sighed repeatedly at the side, already resigned to abandoning the idea of recruiting. Come on, little ancestor, I'll help you handle that little wolf. The middle-aged cultivator sighed inwardly, feeling pity for the cultivator named Greedy Wolf. Not that bald guy and the masked man, this one. The little girl lifted her right hand and pointed at the figure stepping into the 12th layer, the figure of Wang. He entered the grand hall. He looks familiar. Let me think. The little girl pondered for a moment. Then her eyes suddenly lit up. His name is Wang. I remember now. When I found that little wolf, I also saw him. I think Henin and I even helped him once back then. And I feel like I'd seen him even before that. Is he the one you wanted to recruit? Great. Henin and I will go with you. The little girl blinked and clapped her hands, laughing. The middle-aged man swallowed hard, staring at the little girl in a daze. After a long while, excitement filled his face. Little ancestor, you're certain you knew him before, and even saved him? Little solitary Cliff, are you not listening? The little girl frowned and pointed at the excited middle-aged man, speaking in a tone far older than her years. No wonder she's one of the twin grand heavenly venerables. She foresaw this change and actually saved him beforehand. With that connection, maybe we really can recruit him. The middle-aged cultivator laughed aloud in excitement, his spirit renewed, his face almost glowing, and he hurried to coax the little girl as though she were a child. Hearing his words, the little girl immediately beamed with pride, her expression full of delight. You little solitary Cliff wouldn't listen. Did you finally realize how formidable me and Henin are? You've learned your lesson, haven't you? I told you not to worry about those who left before, but you wouldn't listen. As the twin grand heavenly venerable, I never force anyone. If they want to leave, then they can leave. I plan and strategize. How could they, or even you, ever understand? The little girl grew increasingly smug as she spoke, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. Yes, twin grand heavenly venerable, your plans are unmatched. Little solitary Cliff is in awe, truly in awe. The middle-aged cultivator quickly chuckled, his gaze filled with affection as he looked at the little girl before him. Although his cultivation was not on par, ever since the reincarnation of the twin grand heavenly venerable had caused an unexpected event, when everyone else left, he chose to stay behind to take care of the two little girls. Everything he did was in gratitude for the favor he had received from the twin grand heavenly venerable during their peak years. Back in the Violet Sun sect, as the laughter echoed, far away on Dishan Empire's Mount Dishan, the previously lazy and sunbathing great heavenly venerable Judy now widened his eyes, staring intently at a patch of autumn leaves. He actually passed the 11th layer and is attempting the 12th. This could be considered a figure of some worth. Maybe I can try to recruit him. But with High Z there, if I go over, it doesn't seem to match what I had previously said. The elderly man muttered, but his gaze never wavered from the autumn leaves. Fine, it's just the 11th layer. This kid passing it doesn't compare to Nether Dao Venerable. The old man waved his hand, closing his eyes and stopping his gaze. However, after a brief pause, he reopened his eyes and glanced at the autumn leaves again. Will he really make it past? Meanwhile, within the imperial palace of Central Imperial City, in the luxurious halls, a figure clad in black robes, the Nether Dao Venerable, stared at the ethereal image of the grand hall, his brows furrowing slightly. One breath, can we kill him? A calm voice echoed throughout the hall. Nether Dao Venerable remained silent for a moment before slowly responding. One breath, yes. A slight smile seemed to linger in the air as the voice echoed once more. He won't make it past the 12th layer. His heavenly ox soul armor will encounter the heavenly ox in the 12th layer. Let someone else deal with him. I have no interest. Just as his words hung in the air, the sound suddenly cut off. A ripple appeared on the dragon throne, and a middle-aged man dressed in golden robes, with an imperial crown, resembling the immortal progenitor, suddenly manifested. At that moment, his eyes were filled with shock as he gazed at the ethereal image in the hall. Inside the 12th layer's grand hall, a blinding golden light erupted. The golden light clearly spread from the heavenly venerable nirvana grounds. Yet at this moment, it seemed to pierce through all voids, suddenly radiating from the ethereal image of the grand hall, enveloping the entire palace. He passed the 12th layer. The middle-aged man in golden robes seemed genuinely surprised. The young Nether Dao Venerable beside him suddenly exuded a terrifying murderous aura. His eyes locked onto the ethereal screen, revealing an ocean of coldness. He understood. The fact that this person had passed the 12th layer, just like himself in his prime, would surely draw attention from all the grand heavenly venerables. They would compete for him, offering better terms to help him grow stronger. The fact that he had passed the 12th layer meant that in the future, when people spoke of him, they would inevitably mention this person's name. This did not sit well with him, someone who had always prided himself on being first among leap heavenly venerables. Only the 12th layer? There are a few people on the immortal clan lands who could do that. Kill him, or wait a breath. The black-clad Nether Dao Venerable said after a brief pause, his voice slow and deliberate. But the man in golden robes continued to gaze at the ethereal image, lost in thought. At the same time, back on Dishan Empire, the elderly man suddenly rose, his eyes flashing with a strange light. However, after a moment of hesitation, he slowly sat back down. I've seen him before. This child possesses the heavenly ox soul armor. To pass the 12th layer with the soul armor is impressive, but still not comparable to Nether Dao Venerable, unless he can wear the soul armor and make it through the 13th layer. Otherwise, he's just an ordinary transcendent heavenly venerable, the old man muttered, deep in thought before closing his eyes again. Sigh, it's a waste, truly a waste. Should I recruit him or not? He likely won't pass the 13th layer. He'll probably give up. The old man suddenly opened his eyes and then looked sharply at the autumn leaves. From within the golden light of the 12th layer's grand hall, he saw Wang Lin surrounded by a mist of water vapor that seemed to cling to him, radiating a pressure that could even be felt from the distant autumn leaves. Extreme Water Dao. As the old man observed the formless ripples around Wang Lin's body within the autumn leaf, he immediately saw Wang Lin's body suddenly flicker, as if he had not given up, but instead charged directly towards the 13th layer. In the blink of an eye, his figure disappeared into the mist, rushing toward the 13th hall. This scene, within the central imperial palace, caused the black-clad Ming Dao Venerable to snort coldly, a flash of murderous intent in his eyes. Immortal Emperor, I need to visit the heavenly venerable nirvana and break through the 16th layer. Such things had become rare within the immortal clan. Only the Ming Dao Venerable had once received such attention. But now, this spotlight would no longer belong solely to the Ming Dao Venerable. It would be divided, part of it now falling upon Wang Lin. From that moment on the immortal clan lands, and even in the history of the immortal clan, Wang Lin's name might shine like a brilliant star, rising above the celestial canopy, its radiance endless, known by all those with the qualifications. Soon, perhaps even the ancient clan members would hear of it. Among the immortal clan, the 49th Leap Heavenly Venerable, after first becoming a Leap Heavenly Venerable, had already conquered the 11th and 12th layers, and now, he was heading to challenge the 13th layer. On the Dishan Empire, Judy, the Grand Heavenly Venerable, no longer had the same languid eyes as before. They now gleamed with intensity, staring at the autumn leaf. His expression was now serious, devoid of the previous indifference. He understood that breaking through the 13th layer, even while wearing soul armor, was enough to indicate one fact. This person may not be as insignificant as he once thought. As for the immortal emperor, already seated on the dragon throne in the central imperial palace, his eyes emitted a strange glint as he pondered, gazing at the illusory screen in front of him, watching Wang Lin enter the 13th layer. Next to him, the black-clad Ming Dao Venerable sat cross-legged, his divine sense gathering at the heavenly spirit, preparing to head towards the heavenly venerable nirvana. At this moment, Within the heavenly venerable nirvana, Dao Yi, the grand heavenly venerable, frowned slightly and sighed inwardly. He knew that Wang Lin had already stirred up a storm. A cultivator like him, if a grand heavenly venerable wanted to recruit him, it would require a certain price to be paid. But even the greatest price was worth it. If this person could one day become a grand heavenly venerable, all past efforts would transform into good karma, yielding rich returns. Having a fellow grand heavenly venerable as a friend, one who had shared such a bond, would elevate the status of any grand heavenly venerable within the immortal clan. Beside him, Wu Feng, the grand heavenly venerable, also sighed. He foresaw that Wang Lin would soon replicate the situation where, except for the twin grand heavenly venerables, the remaining 4 grand heavenly venerables competed for the same person. Unless some unforeseen event occurred. Within the heavenly venerable nirvana, all was silent. The heavenly venerable cultivators silently looked up at the sky. In this single day, they felt the growing gap between themselves and Wang Lin, stretching from the 5th layer to the 12th layer. Looking back at the time when Wang Lin had just broken through the 5th layer, the thoughts they had back then now seemed like a joke. With their cultivation, their heavenly venerable status, they had no right to comment on a leap heavenly venerable cultivator, let alone one who could break through the 12th layer. Now, for the figure in the sky, all they could do was look up in awe. Even Shui Yu and the others remained silent, their expressions much less complicated. After all, the gap was too vast, enough to erase any complicated emotions. Back then, the Ming Dao Venerable stopped at the 13th layer. I wonder if this person can surpass him. If he breaks through the 13th layer, he will completely overshadow the Ming Dao Venerable and become the first among the Leap Heavenly Venerables. Even if he's not yet as powerful as the Ming Dao Venerable, who can break through the 15th layer, the gap won't be too large. As for Xun'er, the transcendent Heavenly Venerable, his face remained pale. Despite knowing he should change his mindset, he still couldn't help but reveal a complicated expression upon seeing the scene before him. 13th layer. He can't get past it. The Leap Heavenly Venerables who had come here, besides Shui Yu and Xun'er, were over 20 others scattered around, looking up at the sky, witnessing this great event. I wonder if he can break through the 13th layer. Among our immortal clan's Leap Heavenly Venerables, there are 9 who have stopped at the 13th layer, including Kaiwei Venerable and Ming Dao Venerable. Even if Wang Lin doesn't get past the 13th layer, this would make the Leap Heavenly Venerables in this layer a total of 10. The 13th layer, he should not be able to pass. After all, he has limits. These Leap Heavenly Venerables, some of whom were close to each other, transmitted their divine thoughts, looking at the misty outline of the 13th hall in the sky. Inside the 13th hall, Wang Lin's face was pale. As he stepped forward, the blurry void once again appeared before him. The mist was thicker than before, swirling around, more intense than the previous 2 layers. Within this mist, Wang Lin remained silent. The 9 heavenly spirits of the 12th layer encountered the heavenly ox. I can feel that breaking through the 12th layer was already the limit after wearing the soul armor. Soul armor, after all, is not an all-powerful item. It can enhance my cultivation and increase my combat power, but as my cultivation grows, its effects gradually diminish. After all, at best, it just brings me close to the heavenly ox. But this closeness still carried a gap. Fortunately, on the 11th layer, I grasped the extreme fire Dao, and on the 12th layer, I comprehended the extreme water Dao. From the 8 extreme Daos passed down by the immortal progenitor within the primordial divine realm, I now command 2. As for this 13th layer, shall I pass or not? Wang Lin gazed at the mist before him, eyes deep in thought. What is Dao? From within the mist, the exact same voice that had echoed on the 2 previous layers now resounded again. Its reverberation filled the void, carrying supreme aura pressure. As the voice echoed, Wang Lin's eyes gradually calmed. This was the 3rd time he had been asked this question. The first time, he had answered with life and death as Dao. The second, with karmic bonds as Dao. Now, for the 3rd time, Wang Lin understood, it was truth and illusion as Dao. For others, such comprehension and trial of Dao might be difficult, but for Wang Lin, he had long begun pondering this back when he was still in the cave abode world. A single astounding feat. I suppose I've barely managed that much. Enough. After crossing this 13th layer, I will stop here. With this alone, even if those grand heavenly venerables can see that I possess soul armor, it will already prove my worth. In his quiet contemplation, Wang Lin settled on his decision. Life and death form the rope. That is Dao. When the two ends of the rope connect, it becomes a circle. This is karmic bond, and this too is Dao. Men are bound by dream obstacles, unable to discern waking from slumber. These illusions obscure the truth of heaven and earth, trapping all beings within truth and illusion. Therefore, the power to shatter dream obstacles and open one's eyes, that is truth and illusion, and this too is Dao. As the echoing voice resounded again and again, Wang Lin's mind grew clear. He recalled his 60 years immersed in Dream Dao on Vermilion Bird Star and slowly spoke aloud. As his words rang out, the mist that covered the path before him suddenly dispersed, revealing a vast and complete starry sky. Time passed. Within the heavenly venerable Nirvana grounds, all those waiting had watched the 13th layer of the heavens for the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Their gazes gradually filled with regret and doubt. He's already taken far longer than on the 12th layer. Clearly, the 13th layer is far harder. It seems he truly will halt at the 13th layer. After all, even he has limits. That's right. To become a transcendent heavenly venerable for the very first time, and already rank among the top 10 transcendent heavenly venerables of the Immortal clan. This man's name will spread far and wide. A pity. If he could have crossed the 13th layer, he would rank just beneath Venerable Kaiwei, becoming one of the top 3 strongest transcendent heavenly venerables of our Immortal clan. In the end, he still has not surpassed the Nether Dao Venerable. Among the transcendent heavenly venerables present, divine sense spread as they waited, some sighing in regret, others exhaling in relief. So this is his limit. Dao, Grand Heavenly Venerable gazed at the sky, secretly reassured. If Wang Lin failed to cross the 13th layer, it would be easier to draw him in. As everyone speculated that Wang Lin would stop at the 13th layer, suddenly the distant ancient teleportation array flared with rotating light. As the radiance pulsed, a figure condensed within it. When the glow faded, a black-clad youth appeared under everyone's gaze. His arrival caused no less of a stir than Dao, and Wufeng's earlier appearance. In fact, it stirred an even greater commotion, as if his very presence heralded a new storm sweeping through the heavenly venerable Nirvana grounds. The Nether Dao Venerable. That's him. The Nether Dao Venerable. Even he has come. If Wang Lin fails to pass the 13th layer, so be it. But if he truly does succeed, what expression will the Nether Dao Venerable wear then? Not all heavenly venerable cultivators had seen him before, yet through divine sense transmissions they quickly learned who he was. Their gazes toward the Nether Dao Venerable brimmed with respect, tinged with eager anticipation. They awaited that instant, when Wang Lin emerged, and their eyes would meet. What would happen then? The strongest among transcendent heavenly venerables, the foremost beneath the grand heavenly venerables. Yet the Nether Dao Venerable appears here at this very moment. How fascinating this has become. Clearly, he cannot remain calm. With Wang Lin poised to surpass him, if he hadn't come, it would not fit his nature at all. The Nether Dao Venerable has always been marked by solitary pride. For a long time, none have been able to challenge him. Even Venerable Kaiwei was utterly suppressed by him. Those who truly understood the Nether Dao Venerable were the other transcendent heavenly venerables of equal standing. Their expressions remained unchanged, but inwardly, they too felt expectation rise. Nether Dao greets Dao, Grand Heavenly Venerable, and Great Heavenly Venerable Wufeng. The black-clad youth's gaze was cold and severe. He ignored all the heavenly venerables and transcendent heavenly venerables around him, bowing only toward Dao, and Wufeng. Wufeng looked at the Nether Dao Venerable and sighed inwardly. Back then, he had offered him excellent terms, yet the man still chose the Immortal Emperor. Just as Wufeng was about to speak, his head suddenly snapped upward. And not only him. At that very moment, every person present shuddered in spirit. No longer paying the Nether Dao Venerable any heed, they all raised their heads in unison, gazing toward the sky. From the heavens above, The 13th hall, veiled in clouds and mist, suddenly erupted with golden light. The brilliance pierced through the haze, dyeing the sky entirely in gold, as if the heavens themselves had, in that instant, become a golden sky. He passed the 13th layer. In the past, when the Nether Dao Venerable first attempted the Heavenly Venerable Ascension after becoming a transcendent Heavenly Venerable, he halted at the 13th layer. Now Wang Lin has surpassed it, going beyond what the Nether Dao Venerable once achieved. The youth in black, Nether Dao Venerable, narrowed his pupils, fixing his gaze on the heavens, his expression darkening. The 13th layer. Just how much strength does this Wang Lin still hold? Could it be that today he intends to charge all the way to the 19th layer? This man, in but a single day, has shocked the world. The transcendent Heavenly Venerable cultivators turned their eyes skyward, each gaze filled with awe. They had every reason to be stunned by Wang Lin's feat almost the very moment the golden light flashed from the 13th layer. Someone first turned to look at the Nether Dao Venerable. Moments later, nearly half the crowd had fixed their eyes on him as well. Wang Lin's breakthrough had, without words, become a challenge, an unspoken challenge to the Nether Dao Venerable. He stared calmly at the heavens, but cold air leaked from his body, a storm brewing within. As the chill spread, the murmurs around them fell into sudden silence. In the sky above the 13th hall, Wang Lin's figure appeared. His face was deathly pale. After emerging, he did not attempt the 14th layer but instead began descending slowly. The cultivators around him, silent, all turned to watch. Why did you stop? In that stillness, as Wang Lin descended, a cold voice suddenly echoed out from the Nether Dao Venerable. The words reverberated across the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana grounds. Every cultivator who heard them trembled inwardly, eyes gleaming with strange anticipation. They could already sense it. The storm was about to break. Dao E Grand Heavenly Venerable remained composed, saying nothing. At his side, Great Heavenly Venerable Woofing smiled faintly, as though he hadn't heard, merely observing. Both knew these two immortal clan transcendent Heavenly Venerables were extraordinary, and wanted to see how matters would unfold. In truth, to the surrounding cultivators, this confrontation was even more enticing than Wang Lin's trial through the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana itself. Even far beyond the Nirvana grounds, across the immortal clan continent, countless eyes lit with interest. On the Disan Empire's peak, Heavenly Venerable Judy fixed his bright gaze on Autumn Leaf before him. To pass the 13th layer, this man is worth recruiting. And now the Nether Dao Venerable presses him with words. Intriguing. I wonder how Wang Lin will respond. 13 layers, not easy. Yet even so, his name will now resound far and wide. Within the central Imperial clan's palace, the immortal emperor sat upon the dragon throne, watching the phantom projection before him. A faint smile curved his lips. Only 13 layers, nothing too concerning. Nether Dao is solitary and proud, unwilling to let any transcendent Heavenly Venerable surpass him. Even when he first achieved that rank, he would not permit another to stand above him. That flaw in his nature is no virtue, but that he can weave even arrogance into his cultivation makes it tolerable. So be it. Let Nether Dao give Wang Lin a lesson. Even if he has broken through 13 layers, when he comes to my imperial city, he must still bow his head. In the eastern continent, within the Violet Sun sect, a middle-aged cultivator frowned at the mirror before him. Nether Dao, he goes too far. Before nearly every Heavenly Venerable cultivator, to speak in such a tone, his words drip with contempt. Within the Heavenly Venerable Nirvana grounds, Wang Lin had descended to the 9th layer. Suddenly he paused, lifting his gaze toward the cold, black-clad youth watching him. Who are you? Wang Lin asked calmly, though he had already sensed the man's hostility. Nether Dao, the youth replied coldly, his voice brimming with solitary pride. I'm asking you, why did you stop? Wang Lin furrowed his brow, pondering briefly. He soon understood. The man was enraged because Wang Lin had surpassed the point he once reached. Few, after becoming transcendent Heavenly Venerables, carry such a temperament. This one. Wang Lin glanced at the Nether Dao Venerable, his eyes flashing almost imperceptibly. He walks the path of solitary pride, arrogant beyond compare, and cultivates through it. He cannot endure the thought of being surpassed, not even by a fraction. That pride consumes him. No wonder he became the first among Leap Heavenly Venerables. Such a man likely shuts himself away from the world, devoting everything to that solitary path. Wang Lin smiled faintly, ignored the black-clad youth, and with a flicker, transformed into a rainbow streak, flying straight toward Dao Yi and Great Heavenly Venerable Wufeng. Wang Lin pays his respects to the two Grand Heavenly Venerables. My trial ends here. I still have pressing matters and will take my leave. Before Dao Yi and Wufeng, Wang Lin clasped his fists in salute, utterly disregarding the Nether Dao Venerable. Anyone who can break through the 13th layer must be among the peak figures of our immortal clan's Leap Heavenly Venerables, Wang Lin. I will come to find you. The Great Heavenly Venerable Wufeng smiled and nodded slightly at Wang Lin. Haha, young friend Wang Lin, since you remember the promise from years ago, I will also come to find you. As for the specifics, we will discuss them in person when we meet. The Grand Heavenly Venerable Dao Yi smiled, with admiration shining in his eyes. Wang Lin cupped his fists again toward Dao Yi and Wufeng, then turned, still ignoring the Nether Dao Venerable, and walked toward the ancient teleportation array in the distance, ready to leave. He felt that he had already made a strong impression and achieved his goal. Moreover, if it weren't for using a few of his void avatars, he might not have been able to overcome the 9th heavenly spirit under the 9 heavenly spirits with just his soul armor. Therefore, he decided to stop here. The 13th layer was enough to attract the attention of the Great Heavenly Venerables. As Wang Lin moved, the surrounding cultivators' gazes followed him, though their hearts carried a hint of disappointment. Looks like Wang Lin still doesn't dare provoke the Nether Dao Venerable. He knows his limits. After all, he only made it through the 13th layer, while the Nether Dao Venerable has reached the 15th layer and is the first among the Leap Heavenly Venerables. But the Nether Dao Venerable is too overbearing. His words had no courtesy, almost like an interrogation. Overbearing? We cultivators respect the strong. The Nether Dao Venerable is the top among the Great Heavenly Venerables and should act this way. It's Wang Lin who ignored him, which is somewhat arrogant. The discussions around them no longer spread through divine sense, but turned into a hum, as if intentionally amplified. Gradually, the voices grew louder, and even when Wang Lin reached the ancient teleportation array, he could still hear some of it. Frowning, Wang Lin glanced back at the cultivators behind him. Under his gaze, the chatter immediately ceased. Without further care, Wang Lin was about to use the teleportation array to leave the Nirvana grounds. But at that moment, someone wasn't willing to let him go that easily. Leaving just like that? I've already asked you twice. The cold voice of the black-clad youth, the Nether Dao Venerable, rang out from the sky. Wang Lin paused, slightly hesitating, then turned toward the Nether Dao Venerable. Yes, I'm not continuing. I'm leaving now. What's the matter? It's nothing. I just want you to try the 14th layer. If you fail, you can leave. The black-clad youth spoke slowly, his arrogance more apparent in his expression. Upon hearing this, Wang Lin suddenly smiled and ignored the Nether Dao Venerable. His body flickered, and the teleportation array immediately began to glow. But at that moment, a flash of killing intent appeared in the eyes of the black-clad youth. Impudent. His right hand raised, and with a sudden motion, he pointed directly at the teleportation array. In an instant, the entire Nirvana grounds seemed to tremble, and a massive finger appeared in the sky, heading straight for the teleportation array. The rules of the Nirvana grounds prohibited combat, a regulation set for all eternity. Yet, the Nether Dao Venerable showed no concern for this rule and directly attacked. This rule wasn't set by the immortal progenitor, but by later generations. So even if someone broke it, the Nirvana grounds wouldn't be destroyed or erased. Still, few dared defy it. The massive finger, roaring through the air, caused the surrounding cultivators to gasp, their faces filled with shock as they retreated in unison. He actually dares to attack here. No wonder he's the first among the Great Heavenly Venerables under the Dao. He dares to defy the rules of this place. This rule was set by the Great Heavenly Venerable. How bold of the Nether Dao Venerable. The giant finger, carrying a thunderous roar, charged toward Wang Lin in the teleportation array. If Wang Lin didn't resist, his divine sense would undoubtedly be damaged during the teleportation, and there was even a risk of it collapsing completely. But if he dodged, he would be forced away from the array, unable to leave. This act was meant to publicly crush Wang Lin's previous momentum and severely diminish the reputation he gained from passing the 13th layer. It was a clear demonstration of the Nether Dao Venerable's overwhelming strength. Dao Yi and Wufeng, the two great heavenly venerables, frowned. Dao Yi hesitated but said nothing, while Wufeng snorted coldly. Nether Dao, how bold! To dare strike here. He raised his hand, swinging his sleeve, but just then, a loud laugh echoed from the crowd below. A heavenly venerable cultivator suddenly erupted in golden light, and a phantom figure appeared around him, enveloping his body. The figure wore a golden robe and an imperial crown, none other than the Immortal Emperor. The Immortal Emperor appeared here with his unique divine art. With a wave of his right hand towards Wu Feng, he instantly dispelled the force from Wu Feng's sleeve. Inside the teleportation array, Wang Lin suddenly looked up. A cold gleam flashed in his eyes, and a killing intent emerged. He hadn't intended to cause trouble here and had planned to leave, but the actions of the Nether Dao Venerable now made Wang Lin feel a chill. He couldn't allow his goals to be thwarted by the other party. With a sudden movement, Wang Lin stepped out of the teleportation array just as the finger, rushing towards him, was about to strike. The moment he stepped out, the finger disappeared before him, as if the other side had never intended to strike at all, merely a mocking gesture.